Good morning, everyone. So, today we're going to be discussing something that I feel I have a lot of experience with. So, this is something that I hope can be insightful to you if you do stumble across this video. And I do hope that me discussing my experience can help you make a decision when it comes to your life. So, what am I talking about? Today we're going to be discussing should you quit your toxic job? So, with that being said, let's jump right into it. So, me, the best way to get this rolling is just give you some background on me and why I'm an expert in the field. So, I am going to roll it back even before I got into the job market, man. I know that. Number one is both of my parents worked for the same company. Like, they worked in the same company, just not at the same place. For my mom worked there for 30 years. My dad is about to retire, and he will have been there over 30 years as well. And with that job, it was not a great place for them. My mom loved the job for the most part. My dad has hated his job for the last like 28 years, I swear. I've heard him talk about it every single day about how bad it is for at least the last 20 years. So the thing is he's been and I'm very grateful for my father. I'm grateful for my mother. I'm grateful that they went out there and they did that for them. They established a way of life that was much better than what they had growing up, and they did that for me, and I'm very thankful. But the thing is that you get into this rhythm, right? You get into this routine. For my dad has hated his job for a very long time. It was a very toxic work environment, not only mentally, but also physically. He's a mechanic. He's been dealing with a lot of chemicals around him his whole life, oil, different brake cleaner, whatever it may be. But at the same time, he's also been having to work on these vehicles, so that's a rigorous job, and he's been doing it for almost 30 years. And I know he's almost right at retirement, but the thing is what else could he have done? So on that note, let's look at my life. So that was my background. That's what I saw. That's what I was told to do. That's what I thought you were supposed to do, was go find a job, or either go to college and get a degree and then go find a job, have a good 401k, and then work there, hate your life, hate your job, and work there until you retire. And then hopefully you'll have like 10 years left of your life that you can enjoy. But for me, when I got into the workforce, I was 18. I was working at a movie theater, and that's actually where I met my wife, which is very cool and hilarious because she was my boss there for a little while. But at the same time, so that job was awesome. If anyone's watching and maybe you're younger and you're saying, "Hey, I'm trying to find a first job. What should I do?" Go work at a movie theater. Working at a movie theater is sick. Just because you get free popcorn. Well, it depends. I don't know. I don't know anymore because Carmike's out of business. Because when I used to work for Carmike, that was you got a whole bunch of perks. But anyways, moving on to the next time I was in the job. I worked for a Fortune 100 company. They're in the beverage industry, so you can imagine there's only like three. I'll let you guys figure out which one of them it was. But I worked in that industry, and I went into that job, and the first week I was working 5 days, 12-hour shifts. And that was before I could even actually do anything in this warehouse. When they finally got me the equipment to be able to do what I needed to do, I went from working like 60 hours a week to working 70 plus for 4 months straight almost. And I know that that may seem like an exaggeration to a lot of people, but the first summer I worked there, I remember very well that there was a week that I worked almost 90 hours because I was working 14 to 15-hour shifts every day. And then on Friday, I worked a 21-hour shift. So think about this. In one day, I worked half of what most people's work week was. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm working a 40-hour shift," and the thing is when you work 21 hours in a day, when you work half of that, that is very toxic to you mentally and physically. That first summer I remember very vividly because it was so terrible. I remember how I was working so much that I would come home on Friday night, well, usually Saturday morning. So even on a normal week, I was getting off at 6 in the morning. I was getting off. I was going to work at 1:30 in the afternoon on Friday, and then coming home at 6 a.m. on Saturday, and that was every single Friday. And I remember just sleeping all of Saturday. And I mean, I have a wife and a kid, and they never, and I'm serious, for the entire 4 months, they never got to see me. I was absent on Saturday and most of Sunday because of how tired I was. So, and I know you referencing what I said earlier, is you're hearing me say, well, that first summer. So it must have gotten better. It never got better. So it got slightly better, I guess. The next summer, I was working 12-hour shifts, 12 to 14-hour shifts instead of 14 to 16-hour shifts to, 18, 20. So that's good. The summer after that, but I was still breaking my body. Summer after that, I'd moved to Fort Worth. That one, I was working 12-hour shifts. But, yeah, I was working 12-hour shifts, but I was working in the heat. I was outside the entire time in the sun. That job was brutal. So, you may be in a different position than me. Maybe you're working an office job and you're not working a physical job, a warehouse job, whatever it may be. But you have to sit there and think about your life. Think about what you're leaving on the table. For me, I was working so hard, so many hours doing in a toxic job just to try to move up to make $100,000 a year. And my wife and my son never saw me. They got the worst version of me, period. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, if we're going to talk about, and even when I moved up to being a supervisor, that didn't change things. Then I was in charge of my team and making sure that they showed up to their toxic work environment. Because even as a supervisor, I mean, I cut the hours down. When I showed up there, they were working 16s, and I was able to cut it back to 12s. But that's still a lot of hours. You're still working 60 plus hours a week. And also, the thing, let's answer the question right now. Should you quit your toxic job? Yes and no. Yes, if you have something in mind, or you're already building a side hustle. I had a friend who worked at the same job as me. He was selling shoes. So anytime a new shoe would drop, he would be there early in the morning and he'd buy 3 or 4 pairs of them and he'd flip them. He had a side hustle going, and it was good enough for him to pay his car off, for him to buy new equipment, all these different things, right? He had that side hustle growing. So if you have something like that, yes, if you can scale that side hustle, quit your toxic job, go scale that thing. If you are in a toxic job and don't have anything, I would say no. Don't quit it until you figure out what it is you want to get into. Because if I've wanted to do this 100 times, but if you are working in a toxic job that is paying you good money, don't just up and quit because you're upset at them and then you're left without a job and then you had a few $100 to your name, now you're completely broke and you can't do anything anyways, and you're in a destitute position. The thing is as well is maybe you can find a way, and I've referenced this in some of my other videos, is maybe you can find a way in that job to pivot into a different branch, into a different division that maybe isn't as toxic. This is something I should have done. Instead of just trying to just stay in one vein because I knew it. Well, I know everything about it, so I'll just stay here. This is the fastest way to move up. If I would have listened to other people around me, I should have pivoted out of being in the warehouse, because it would have saved me a lot of pain and heartache, and it would have given me a better life at home. If you can do that, if you can add more value to the company and increase your finances that way and get yourself into a better environment, do that first, and then figure out the side hustle, figure out the side thing, and then take that to the next level, scale it so you can be at home too. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you do like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, and also leave me a comment if you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.